Are you ready to step up to a luxury guided tour or perhaps a luxury river cruise? Stay tuned, as today we're going to do a review of Tauck Tours. My special guest today is Larry Jackson, owner of Cruise Holidays of Viera, located in Melbourne, Florida. Larry and his team of expert travel advisors have been meeting the needs of their clients for the last 20 plus years. Hi, Larry. Welcome back to RTE Travel Talk.
Hi, Ken. It's great to
Wonderful
be
to have you
back with
back
you.
with us, Larry. So, Larry, one of the topics that we're seeing online from our viewers and listeners is folks looking for kind of a more upscale guided tour, or in some cases, a river cruise. Now, I happen to know that there's one company that's been around for nearly 100 years that is filling just that niche. And of course, I'm talking about Tauck Tours. Now, I happen to know that they're on top of your list as a go to luxury travel provider. So I was hoping today that we could spend a little time and you could give us a little bit of a review of Tauck.
Okay, sounds great, Ken. The reason I like Tauck, it is, I think, the finest travel company in the world. And I rate them above all of the cruise lines, land tours, everything else because of their whole concept of the way to travel. And that's why I say they're the best travel company, I
Wow,
believe, in the
wow,
world.
that's high praise. So why don't we kind of take a 30,000 foot level at Tauck and you can give us a bit of a mini review.
Okay, I think the best way, and you alluded to this earlier, is to look at the history of Tauck. It was started by Arthur Tauck in
Right.
1925. Well, they've been around 98 years. It is a family company. The CEO right now is married to one of the Tauck daughters. Arthur Tauck Jr. is still on the board of directors. So it's a family operation. Arthur Tauck was a fellow who sold bank supplies in New England back in the 1920s. And one day he was at a restaurant. And he noticed there were a bunch of other businessmen around, and he wondered. They were there because the scenery was so nice, and he was wondering, what if I took other people with me when I made my sales calls throughout these little towns in New England and showed them this wonderful part of our country? You think they would pay for that? So he ran an ad in the paper in 1925 for $69. He promised a 7 day tour of New England, everything including tips and meals and everything else. And one of the things he put in his ad is only happy people need apply, no grumps or pessimists. And so,
Yeah.
again, this was the
Right.
way the company began. And six people responded to him. He took them with him. And from there, the rest is history. And the company's grown into what
Wow.
it is today.
So what types of tours
And
does Tauck offer, Larry?
basically, Tauck does five different ways to travel. Let's put it that way. One, of course, is their land tours in North America and Europe. Two, the river cruises. They have three boats in Europe doing the river cruises. Three, they do small boat cruises, and they do this with companies like Windstar, Ponant. All of these ships are less than 100 passengers. And then their fourth way of traveling, and this one I really like, is called bridges. And this is multi generational tours that they do in Europe and North America, where and one of the things that they say that Talk says is that you can buy somebody a computer, give it to them for a gift for Christmas, but in a few years it's going to be obsolete. You can give your grandchildren a car, but it's going to break down in a few years. But if you give your grandchildren and your children
Yeah.
the gift of travel, it creates memories that they will have for their entire lifetime. So that's what Talk Bridges seeks to do, is to everybody goes on the same tour, and the children have their activities, the adults have their activities, such as going to museums while the kids are making pizza. So the kids don't get bored, but the adults get to see what they want to see in that part of Europe. And then the fifth way of traveling is their exotics, and this is going to places like Antarctica and Galapagos. And that's basically what
Right.
Tauck has to
So in
offer.
terms of the ships, the river ships are their own ships, but some of these other vacations that you mentioned, they actually charter. They'll do a full ship charter on some of
Right.
these smaller lines.
Yeah, that's correct. On the small ship cruises,
Right.
those are charters.
And from I gather from what you just told me, they are pretty much all over the world in terms of destinations, right?
Yeah, pretty much all 7 continents, they're doing something. Now their forte obviously, is North America with a great deal of emphasis on the national parks. They have teamed up with Ken Burns, who was the producer of, Civil
Yep.
War, baseball, and all those documentaries to help them tell the stories. And actually, Europe land tours have now exceeded their portfolio has exceeded what they're doing in
Right.
North America.
So you mentioned in your history there that one of the things that the founders said it was everything was included. So do you consider Tauck an all-inclusive provider?
Yeah, I do, Ken. And again, back to their philosophy. And I think the philosophy is very important of a family oriented company. Their philosophy is that when you go out to see things, that you should not be distracted about worrying about what's going to happen, i.e., are you going to tip the
Right.
bellhop or the porter? Is your luggage going to get on the airplane? Is the airplane going to take off on time? Is the bus going to show up? Where are you going to have lunch? So what they try to do is to take everything that you could possibly have any stress about away from you, and that way you are able to enjoy the experience of where you're at and the experience of travel
Right. So
completely.
the number one thing that's important to them is the experience for their guests.
Exactly, and they want to remove all of the
Yeah.
roadblocks to that experience, and also that their again, their philosophy is that you should never have to reach in your pocket
Yeah.
for anything once you leave your house until you return to your house for any type of money that should not that should all be included up front. Over the 20 years we've been in business, and you and I have
Yeah.
known each other for almost that, my philosophy has been changing about travel, and that the more upfront and the more one price it is, I think the better. And I've been leaning towards and
Yeah.
moving my
A-
clients in that direction
Absolutely,
for a
because
long time.
people don't want to be nickel and I don't know whether you call it nickel and diming, but kind of what you mentioned there. It's just that added little bit of extra stress when you're traveling. Well, should I tip this person or what's what do I do in this situation? And from what you're telling me, they take care of all that.
Yeah, and I'll give you a good example. We were with them in Hawaii, and Tauck does something very unique. When dinner normally, and not always, but most of the time on their tours, dinner is at a restaurant in the hotel or near the hotel, and it's an a la carte dinner. You can order anything you want on the menu. A lot of tour companies, you'll go to a private room
Yeah.
and they'll have a buffet set up for you but Tauck, you go to the restaurant, they go down and tip the waiters before you get there, so that the waiters are not trying to upsell you or anything. They know the waiter's going to take really good care of you because they've already gotten their tips before you go. So that's just one little thing that they do that I think is
So,
important.
and you talked about the 5 ways of travel that they offer. So, am I to understand that that philosophy of everything all inclusive carries over no matter whether you're on a river cruise, a guided tour, or an exotic or a bridge vacation?
Yeah, exactly. And again, a lot of land tour companies, you'll have your tour for the day, but then there'll be an
Yeah.
add-on, an option. Maybe it's a boat ride, some jet boat ride on the Snake River or something like that, and the tour guide gets compensated for you being upsold to
Yeah.
those new experiences. Talc doesn't offer any optional types of tours or anything else. Everything when you leave is included, including all the gratuities. Almost all the breakfasts and dinners are included. Lunch often is included if it's someplace special, like having lunch with a family in their own vineyard, but or it's on your own in a
Yeah.
place that's really appealing. So yes, from that standpoint, on the river boats, they're very unique in that they include I mean, everything on the riverboat, also including spirits. A lot of our riverboat companies include beer and wine at lunch and dinner, and there's an upcharge for spirits that's included with Tauck. All the gratuities are included with Tauck. And Ken, one of the other things that makes Tauck unique are what they call unique to Tauck. And these are experiences that they build into either their tours or their river cruises or even their small ship cruises that
Right.
nobody else does. And I'll just give you one quick example. In Vienna, almost everybody overnights in Vienna, and it's generally an optional tour. At night, they will take you to a place in Vienna where they'll have a concert. It'll either be a ballet or a Mozart presentation, and you'll be in a small room, and it's set up like a theater. Tauck, you go to a palace. The owner of the palace greets you. You have a champagne dinner in his private
Right.
dining room with, and then you have a small presentation in his ballroom. So that's unique to Tau. It's things like going to the Sistine
Right.
Chapel before it opens or after it closes, so that you are the only 24 people in the Sistine Chapel. So these are the things that they build into almost every tour and every
Wow,
cruise.
that's amazing. Now, all of these great things you say, like I'm a big believer that there's nothing free in this world. Tau,
Yes.
now, obviously they're luxury. Where do, in terms of price point, Larry, where do you think that they fall in the market?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ken, and it's a big consideration. And there is a lot of sticker shock when I
Yeah,
talk to people about Tauck. Then they go talk to somebody else who's been on Tauck, and they go, "Wow, it was worth
yeah,
every dime I paid for it." For land tours, it's roughly twice the price of, let's say, a Globus or a Trafalgar. For river cruises, I priced them out with AMA roughly
right,
30% more, but there's a lot more included. Again, on the river cruises, to separate them from other river cruises, their biggest boat only holds 130 guests. That's opposed to 164 on AMA and 192 on Viking. On Viking AMA, you have one tour director
right.
on the boat. On Tauck, you have senior tour director and three
Right.
additional tour directors for 130 people. And that's very important on river cruises, because river cruises really are tours with a floating hotel taking you between destinations. And someone who's there with you on all of the tours that you're on, right there by your side on the boat to take care of any kind of needs you might have, that's important. And when there's only one for 40 guests, that's really different than one for
Well, yeah,
190
plus the
guests.
fact, not only that with the tour directors, that extra 30 to 40 guests on some of these other ships, but you compare that with your service, your wait staff and your crew is just going to lend itself to better service.
And again, they're trying to provide anything that's going to make the
Yeah.
experience. They're very invested or interested in that experience, so that you come home with the greatest travel experience
Exactly,
that you've ever had.
exactly. So you mentioned earlier about groups, and now I know the size of particular groups and tours is something that's important to discerning travelers. How do they
Yeah,
stack up in
absolutely.
that regard, Larry?
Yeah, generally their land tours, let's say North America, are going to be very similar to the others. It's going to be a
Right,
54 passenger bus, of which they about 44 people. But they do have the option on almost every tour to do a
right,
small group tour, and that's 24 guests. There's a premium,
right.
obviously, for
But if
that.
that's something that's important to people, then in a lot of cases it's worth it to those travelers.
Absolutely, and again, it's less wait time for somebody to show up and get on the bus, less in dining and things like that. If you're if you're at a buffet type situation, it's less
Exactly.
time spent
Yeah.
serving as
What about
you.
solo travel? That's a big thing in this day and age. Yeah, are they a good choice for somebody that's looking for a solo travel option?
I think they're really good, because I've had people come back, and what they said was, we immediately felt like part of the group as soon as we met everybody that first evening, and then they adopted us, and they invited us to go to dinner with them, the single traveler, that is, and couples, and we got to know people, and we got to know people that we're still corresponding with. And there's something about the group mentality that where they take care of all the members of the group itself. So, and then you have a very dedicated tour director that's always on the outlook, and taking care of the single traveler. So I think it's an ideal thing for a single traveler. The other thing is, you have the tour director there. If anything goes wrong, if you have a problem, a medical emergency, whatever, you have someone there to help you out. And if you're just on a big ship all by yourself,
Right.
that's
No,
not going to
exactly.
happen.
So I would assume in terms of price point, they're much the same as some of the other companies. There'd be some sort of a single supplement involved for going single.
Yeah, occasionally there'll be a single supplement, and occasionally that will be waived or diminished or reduced,
Right, and
but
it
not very
depends on the
often.
time of year and where you're going, obviously.
Yeah, and the single supplement for tours is not quite at the 200% that we see on, well,
Right.
195% that we see on cruises. So it's a little bit
Okay,
less to
okay.
begin with.
Fill us in a little bit about your typical Tauck guest. Who would you see on these tours, Larry?
I think it's somebody who really appreciates value. It's going to be probably going to be retired folks in their 60s or 70s. Obviously, on the Bridges tours, the multi generational, you're going to have a younger guest. We are seeing a lot of people, even if they're not doing the Bridges tours, are still taking their children and grandchildren on the tour. But it's a guest who enjoys value and wants to really travel, not just to go places, not just ticking off things on a bucket list, but really wants to go for the experience and wants to have the very best experience and come back with the memories of a lifetime. That's the guest that Talc is really caters to.
And as you mentioned earlier, which is it's a phenomenal thing, this multi-generational, they kind of specialize in it.
That's right. And again, with this dedicated tour director, they're going to make sure the children are just as
Yeah.
included as the adults. I can't stress how what the great quality of their tour directors are.
I also read somewhere that they can actually create custom tours. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it is, but it's not one of their fortes. I think their tours are so customized to begin with that I can't think of much. But I'll tell you, if there's something you want to do, you just tell that tour director. If there's something you want to see, something you want to buy, you tell that tour director, and boy, they're going to move heaven and earth to have that happen for you. And Ken, one other thing that they do, they have a thing called delights, and all of their tour directors on land are able to do this. It might be something like she or he sees the group gets enamored by a particular pastry, let's say in Vienna at
Right.
a little shop, and after everybody leaves, she goes and buys everybody pastry. And that evening for dessert, she presents pastry at dinner or on on the boat. And all of them are empowered to do, and they all have these little things. They're always looking for a little delight that they're going to give to their group. Again, that's just another customized thing where she's paying or he's paying attention to the group.
And that's the kind of thing that as a traveler, you're going to take that home as a special memory. That that's going to remain
Yes,
with
it
you
really is.
forever.
Kim, before I forget, I want to talk about
Sure.
Tauk's hotels, which is another really important part of the land portion. Again, they've been in business for 98 years. I was told by one of their directors that they make or break a hotel season in a lot of cases. In other words, if Tauk comes to their hotel, that's going to make their profit for the year because of the rooms that they're booking and the fact that they're bringing so many people. So that hotel is going to do everything in their power to make sure that Tau
Right.
comes back every year. We were in Poipu in Hawaii. We checked into this hotel, and it's a very long hotel. It had rooms facing the parking lot and rooms facing the ocean, rooms on one end of the long hotel and ones in the middle. And we walked all the way to the exact middle of the hotel, and that's where our rooms were. They faced out onto the ocean, onto a lagoon. We opened up the curtains and looked out, and there were 20 porpoises swimming in the lagoon right outside of our door. But it was the very best room that the
Right.
hotel had to offer. And that's what they get consistently
Right.
everywhere that they
Once
travel.
again, it's luxury, it's ultra luxury. You're going to pay for that. But at the end of the day,
Right.
if this is kind of like a once in a lifetime thing, it's something that's going to stay with you probably more so than any other vacation you've ever taken.
That's right, Ken. It's intangibles that you
Exactly.
never thought that you wanted or
Yeah.
needed or existed, and they're providing them for you. And that's why I call them delights because you are delighted by that
Yeah.
surprise that you get.
Now, circling back to the river cruise experience for just a second, Larry, I know where you're going to rank them already, but if we were to compare them to a Viking or an Alma Waterways, where would they fit?
Yeah, actually, they're like 4 or 5 steps above that. You have to look at them more closely to a Uniworld or back when Crystal was doing river cruises, and again, they're going to be 1 or
Yeah.
2 steps above that. Another unique thing about Tauck boats is they were built with low drafts. So
Yes.
we've been experiencing problems in Europe lately between
Yep.
not enough raw water in the Danube or too much. where people had to disembark the boat, get on a bus, and go around the whatever impediment was, and go get back on the boat or another boat. And Tauck has been able to pretty much not have to do that because of the design of their boat. So that's just one other little thing about their river cruises. That and the fact that if you'll go to their website and you look at their river cruises, you'll see the unique to Tauck, and you'll see the extras that they do that no other cruise lines does. And I think that's really what
So far and
separates them.
away, in your opinion, they are the number one river cruise provider in Europe.
Absolutely, and big disadvantage, though, is their river cruises sell out so fast that it's really difficult to book with them. So, we have people who, right now have a wait list for when the 2025 cruises come out that we're gonna be booking,
Yeah.
I like the day that they come out because people have been waiting because they
Well,
can't get
exactly,
anything
because number
else.
one, there are only 130 guests. Number two, they're in
Right.
demand. So,
That's right.
word to the wise, if you're looking for Tauck, you got to consider booking probably 1.5 to 2 years out.
That's exactly right.
I gather that you and Linda are escorting a very interesting tour with Tauck next year. Why don't you give us a little bit of a lowdown on that?
Yeah, Ken, we've been doing a lot of flying lately. We've been to Europe 2 or 3 times this year, and Alaska. And I'm late to the game, but on Delta Airlines, one of their TV stations was Yellowstone, and I got started watching the TV series. Yeah, it's very extensive. I think it's like 6 seasons and 13
Right,
episodes per season. So I put in about 40 or 50 hours watching Yellowstone. I just got fascinated with the
right.
scenery and the backdrops of that TV series. And I've had several clients who felt the same way, and they said, I really want to go to Yellowstone. How do I do it? Well, thinking, well, if I'm going to Yellowstone, I should go with my number one favorite provider of travel. And so we decided that next September, September 25th of 2024, we're going to escort a 7-day Yellowstone and Grand Tetons National Park tour with Tauck. It's
Right.
actually two tours in one. It's the national parks of Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons, and the second half of the tour is going to be the American West experience. We're going to go to the Black Hills, see Mount Rushmore, the Crazy Horse Memorial, and then go to Cody, Wyoming, and see Buffalo Bills museums, and then go and spend the night on a working ranch and do all the things that you do on a ranch, riding horses or watching people rope cattle and all that sort of thing. So it's two tours in one. And Kim, one of the unique things about this tour, and one of the
Right.
reasons I love Tauck, is at Yellowstone, you stay at the Yellowstone Inn, and that's actually about 50 paces from Old Faithful. So you're in the park before the park opens, before anybody, the hordes of RVs and tourists arrive. That to me is really to wake up in the park and to be able to walk out and see Old Faithful all by yourself. That's
Yes,
kind of cool.
yes. So, just an excellent tour for fans of the series, Yellowstone, and fans of that part of the country. It sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it really is, and again, seeing a couple more national parks, and our
Yeah.
national parks are like your national parks. They don't get a
No,
good enough
exactly.
billing. I don't think. I
Yeah.
think they're better than what people
Yeah.
and I've been to several of yours, and
Yeah.
you guys do the same thing.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about Tauck before we wrap up?
Again, it's just if you are looking, if you're going to go to that place, you're only going to go once, and you want to have the very best experience you can possibly have, and you don't want to have to worry about anything. I mean, I used to tell people when I took my cruise tour to Hawaii, I want you to turn off your mind when you get to the airport and turn it back on when you get back home again, because I'm going to take care of everything in between, and
Super,
that's what they
super.
do.
So folks wanted to reach out to you, Larry, about this Tauck tour or perhaps another custom tour or a cruise vacation. How would they do that?
Okay, our website is the best way to do it right there, justcruisingviera.com. There's a contact us box there. And just click that, send us an email, and just freeform whatever you want to ask us about. And then we'll get right back to you. Even when we're traveling, we're checking that email. So it's 24/7, and we'll respond back to you. And just if it's just enough, hey, Larry, I'd like to do this. What do you think? I don't care what it is. Just tell us. And we pride ourselves in crafting uh, travel
Yes, it's more than
experiences.
just a vacation, it's the experience.
That's it, right? And it's not a sale to us. It's the fact that you're going to come
Yeah,
back with a great experience, and that you're going to be. People say a client for life. We truly believe that. In 20 years, we have a lot of people who've been with us the
perfect,
whole
perfect.
time.
Well, I'll leave that information in the description as well. So now, I always have to
Okay.
ask because I know travel is part of your business. Where are you guys off to next?
We are doing a quick tour, short cruise on the Oceana's new ship, the Vista. Other than that, we're going to see the children in Honolulu for Christmas, and that's it for us for a while, Ken. We decided to stay home and
Well, that
relax
sounds
for a
like a
bit.
plan too. That's wonderful, Larry. We'll have to have you back to do a review of that Tauck tour when you do it. So, with that, I'm just going to wish you safe and happy travels on all your future cruises and vacations. May the wind always be at your back, and I hope to see you and Linda on the Lido deck sometime soon in the future. Take care.
Thanks, Ken.
And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Larry Jackson of Cruise Holidays of Viera. If you'd like to reach Larry, I will leave his contact information in the description. If you would like to reach us with a suggestion for a future video or a comment, you can send a question to questions at Real Travel Experts, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or simply leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoyed this content, a like, subscribe, and a ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps us to spread the word. So until next time, happy travels.